There's no stopping what can't be stopped. No killing what can't be killed.
Hey, make sense, man.
Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn. Today's deck is one I'm pretty excited about. It's loosely based off a Jund deck that I made a few seasons back, but now it's Rakdos. This deck is called Unstoppable, and the idea is every single card we're playing is a must-answer threat, so that eventually our opponent runs out of removal, and they can't deal with the must-answer threat, and then it just takes over the game all by itself. We're using all of the best creatures in the colors of Rakdos that are good just by themselves, where they can just take over the game if our opponent doesn't have removal. And we are going to run them out of removal, trust me. The deck gets pretty wild. We're going to break the entire thing down. Before we do, please like the video. It does help the video get out to so many more people, and I appreciate it a ton. It really does mean everything to me. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do any of this. So thank you guys so much. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an upload. Tons of crazy deck tech still on the way. A bunch of crazy ideas, but I wanted to make sure to get this one out to you first because that Jund deck, which was called Good Deck is Good, has been getting a fair number of plays recently. People seem to have a renewed interest, so I thought, let's double down, let's make a new version with some of these new cards and see how well it can do. And we have so many good cards now that we actually don't even need to dip into green anymore, which is why we're now just straight Rakdos. And the deck is awesome, so I'm going to shut up and we're going to talk about the deck. We're going to break it down and show you guys the games. Be sure to catch me live Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/quarantinedcapricorn, because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. This video has been brought to you by Wonders of the First, but I will tell you about that later. Let's break down the deck. Alright, so the core of this deck is built around an idea I had a while back that I made into a deck called Good Deck is Good. That one was Jund. And the idea is we're trying to utilize creatures where every single creature that we play is a must-answer threat. They're the most threatening creatures in this Rakdos color combination that is currently available in Standard. So it's like if you let just one of these slip through and run out of removal, it's just going to take over the game all by itself. So we're trying to use as many creatures as possible that kind of fit the bill for that, while also supplementing that with some creatures that give us 2-for-1 value, or that give us extra value if our opponent removes them, so that they're kind of screwed if they do, screwed if they don't. So the new cards that we're utilizing are Unstoppable Slasher, 3 mana for a 2/3 zombie assassin with Death Touch. Whenever Unstoppable Slasher deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up, which means this thing is absolutely a must-answer threat because it's just going to close out the game so quickly. And because of the Death Touch, they can't ever just block and kill it without losing their blockers. So it is absolutely essential that our opponent kills this, but it kind of pulls double duty because it also has this ability that when it dies, if it had no counters on it, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. So even if they do block it or use removal on it, it's going to come back for more and eventually be available to help us close out the game again. So it kind of fulfills both of the roles that we're looking for in this deck, as something that is a must-answer threat and something that gives us automatic 2-for-1 value and gives us extra value if our opponent does use removal on it. So everything is kind of built around that sort of ideology. We've also got 2 copies of Enduring Courage, which is a new 3/3 enchantment creature Dog Glimmer for 4 mana, 2 red and 2. Whenever another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. So basically all of our huge threats that are must-answer threats are now going to get haste as soon as they come onto the battlefield and be swinging in for even more damage than they otherwise would. So it just turns those back-breaking threats into even more back-breaking threats, even more problematic cards that can close out the game that much quicker. And what's great about Enduring Courage is even if they kill it, it comes back as a non-creature version of the card. So it's really hard for them to get rid of the ability for us to turn all of our creatures into ridiculous, hasty threats that can just close out the game super quick. And that's super important in a deck like this because we're running some really incredibly good 5-drops and 6-drops that can absolutely close out the game that just get even better with that card. Before we get there, let's start from the bottom of the curve and talk about the rest of the deck. We're running 4 copies of Deep-Cavern Bat because this gets rid of the most problematic card. It gets rid of the removal that will get rid of our most problematic threats that we're trying to keep on the battlefield. So it kind of helps glue the deck together a little bit. And also gets us a little bit of life gain in the process. We've also got 4 Case of the Stash Skeleton because it gives us this 2/1 menace threat that keeps getting in for damage and keeps contributing, and eventually they do have to stop it some way because everything else in the deck is so threatening. They can't just let this go forever, right? And when they do get rid of it, it allows us to use Case of the Stash Skeleton as a tutor to find whatever's the best card we need in the moment, whatever's going to get us the most value. And because everything in the deck is a must-answer threat, our opponent will be out of removal most likely by the time we do this, so we're free to grab whatever we want, jam it onto the battlefield, and probably use it to win the game. We've also got 1 Inti. This just gives us a 9th 2-drop to make sure we definitely have something to play on too. Comes down as a 2/2 for 2. And when we attack, we can discard a card to put a +1/+1 counter on an attacking creature and give it trample until end of turn. And when we discard a card, we get to exile the top card of our library and play it. So this is the closest thing we have to a 2-mana creature that is a must-answer threat, just because if it does stick on the battlefield for too long, it starts to just shoot off way too many +1/+1 counters and get you way too much card advantage and sort of help you take over the game. So even though it's not necessarily a must-answer threat if you top deck it later in the game, early in the game it absolutely is. So it really reinforces the strategy that we're going for. Moving on to the 3-drop slot, in addition to the 4 unstoppable slashers, we have 1 copy of the Infamous Cruelclaw, 1 copy of Laughing Jasper Flint, 1 copy of Breach's Eager Pillager, and 1 copy of Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. All of these are legendary, and I do think it's better that we run 1 copy of each of these rather than like 3 or 4 copies of just one of them. That way, if we happen to get some combination of one and another one, we can actually play them both and utilize both of them instead of one being stuck in our hand if one of the legendary creatures is out already. And all of these put in a whole bunch of work. Gix in particular is good to hit the board after a Case or a Deep-Cavern Bat hits the board because we're very easily able to draw cards with those cards as they attack. Breaches is able to ramp us with treasure tokens so that we can get to our 4 or 5 drops that much quicker, while also giving us extra abilities, making it so something can't block so we can close out the game, or giving us card advantage by exiling cards and letting us play them. Laughing Jasper Flint is just a very threatening 4/3 for 3 that allows us to start ripping cards off the top of our opponent's deck and getting free card advantage, stuff that we can play. If they don't answer this guy, it takes over the game by itself, so it perfectly fits the theme that we're going for with this deck. And then we've also got the Infamous Cruelclaw, which works in the same way. 3/3 menace, they have to block it with 2 creatures. If they don't deal with this thing, it gets through for combat damage and lets us play whatever we want off the top for free. Since so many things in this deck are pivotal must-answer threats that you absolutely have to deal with, chances are that Cruelclaw will hit a card like that and you'll get a free must-answer threat on the battlefield, even if it isn't a super expensive one. Some of them are kind of expensive and even better to hit, but no matter what, we're always going to hit something that the opponent just has to deal with, and that makes Infamous Cruelclaw really good in this deck. We've also got 2 copies of Sheoldred, because again, must-answer threat, and this is one of the best textbook definitions of that. We've seen this for a couple years now, that if it doesn't get dealt with, it just takes over the game. So absolutely need to run 2 of these. Under normal circumstances, I would maybe run only 1 since it is legendary, but because it's so good, because it's proven itself to be kind of the best card at being this must-answer threat or just taking over the game by itself, we are going to run the 2nd copy just to increase the consistency of hitting it. And then we've also got 4 Harvester of Miseries. Now, even though this isn't necessarily like a must-answer threat, it is a nice bit of 2-for-1 sort of value in that it comes down, wipes out an aggro board, and then has Menace. So, chances that they have 2 creatures left over that can double block this because of the Menace after you do -2/-2 to their entire board are very slim. So, I feel like the ability combined with the Menace really helps in this deck and gets it close to being that sort of must-answer threat, especially if you're up against aggro, like I said. And what's important about Harvester of Misery as well, it's the closest we can get to having a really big, threatening late-game play while still having access to some early removal in the deck. And I think that's why it's the best choice as removal, because for 2 mana we can discard this, kill something, do -2/-2 to it, so it allows us to have that 2 mana removal spell in our deck while still keeping the threshold of how many ridiculous, expensive threats that must be answered we can keep in the deck. It allows us to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so I think it's perfect as kind of like our 2 mana removal spell. Moving on to the 5-drop slots, that's where things start to get really, really crazy, especially when you see them combined with something like an Enduring Courage on turn 4. We have 4 copies of Bonehoard Dracosaur. This card is absolutely insane and definitely takes over the game all by itself if it survives. The biggest problem with this card is that it doesn't do anything the turn it comes down and can be very easily killed with removal. So I think the trick to utilizing Dracosaur to its fullest potential is to play it in a deck where you're forcing your opponent to use up their removal in earlier turns. They have to deal with every creature you play, so that by the time turn 5 comes around and you drop the Dracosaur, they're out of removal and can't kill it, because if this thing can just survive, even for just 1 turn cycle, it gets you so much value, it's just insane. A 5/5 flying first strike for 5. At the beginning of your upkeep, you exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn, and if you exiled a land this way, you make a 3/1 dinosaur token. If you exiled a non-land this way, you create a treasure token. So you get 2 cards to play, and potentially a 3/1, and potentially a treasure token to help you play those 2 cards, and still keep your 5/5 flying first strike that can now swing in the air. That's an insane amount of value if it survives. So, in a deck like this, we increase the chances of it surviving by having everything we play in turns prior to this being that must-answer threat, and then also on the other side of the coin, we can actually make this a little bit better than it used to be now by playing it in a deck with Enduring Courage as well. So it gets even better here because it comes down, attacks immediately for 7 with First Strike in the air, so that even if they do kill it when they untap with sorcery speed removal, we did get some value off of it. It's not doing nothing, so even if it doesn't survive the turn cycle, there is a chance we still get value off of this, still hit for 7, still force them to block and kill a creature before they're able to use their removal to kill it, just because of the Enduring Courage. So I think this deck is kind of perfect for the Dracosaur, and really the more I think about it, this deck feels like it's sort of built around the Dracosaur. And yeah, if there was ever a deck to run this card, this is the deck. But in addition to the Dracosaur, we are running 1 Dragonhawk Fate's Tempest. Again, comes down as a 5/5 flyer for 5 mana. When it enters or attacks, we exile the top X cards of our library, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. And you may play those cards until your next end step, but if you don't, at the beginning of your next end step, Dragonhawk deals 2 damage to each opponent for each of those cards that are still exiled. So, again, if this survives a turn cycle and gets to swing in and trigger that ability a second time, it gets really, really insane. So similar to the Dracosaur, it works really well in this deck because we increase the chances of it surviving, because everything that comes out before this thing is so important to kill that our opponent might be out of removal. But then, similar to Dracosaur as well, it's also able to take advantage of Enduring Courage to a huge degree by being able to get the Enters trigger, and then immediately swinging as a 7 power flyer and get the attack trigger as well. So you get double triggers the first turn it comes down, which is absolutely insane. And then even if you don't play any of those cards, the fact that each one that gets exiled deals 2 damage at the end of turn you might just kill them on the spot. But we're also running a lot of creatures in this deck that have power 4 or greater, right? And any creatures that we're playing after an Enduring Courage are definitely going to have 4 power or greater, even if it's like an unstoppable slasher, because it's going to get the buff. So it increases the chances of being able to get that many hits, that many more hits off of the Dragonhawk, and it's just perfect in this deck. That being said, it is legendary, so we are going to just run the 1 copy. I think it's important we run the full play set of the Dracosaurs and we not take away from that. In addition, we have 1 copy of Aclazotz. For a similar reason, it is a legendary creature, but this is another one that is a must-answer threat, and even if they do, it turns into a land and then can come back on a later turn, retransform into Aclazotz from the land. So again, just reinforcing those ideas of must-answer threat or something that gives us extra value even if they do deal with it. Very, very nice. Moving on to the 6-drop slots, we have 4 Trumpeting Carnosaurs, and just like the Harvester of Misery, Trumpeting Carnosaur doubles as early removal, so it helps us have more early drops, helps us fit that removal into the deck, while also having a really insane late game play that they just have to deal with. And even if they do deal with it, this thing discovers 5 when you play it, so chances are it's going to hit one of our other very relevant threats, and similar to Cruelclaw, anything it does hit has a very high chance of being one of those must-answer threats, even if it's something that's not super expensive, but it does have the chance that it will hit something like a Dracosaur or a Dragonhawk or an Aclazotz with its Discover 5, and that makes this card really, really amazing in this deck, especially since we can use it as turn 3 removal if we need to, so perfect. And then we're running just 1 copy of Rakdos, Patron of Chaos. This is another textbook example of a card that can just take over the game by itself. That being said, it is legendary and it is a 6-drop, so we're only going to run the 1 copy. But a 6/6 Flying Trampler for 6, where at the beginning of our end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents, but if they don't, you draw 2 cards. This card gets just absolutely bonkers, because no matter what, if they don't have instant speed removal and mana held up, this thing triggers at least once before they get to untap and use sorcery speed removal on it. So at the very least, we get something they have to kill and draw 2 cards, or something they have to kill and they have to sacrifice 2 permanents, and that is huge. That is insane 3-for-1 value. And then if they don't kill it, it's 3-for-1 value every single turn. It's going to trigger at the end of every single one of our end steps. So it just gets completely out of control, and exactly the kind of card we want to be playing in the mid to late game after we run them out of removal. So perfect addition. We're going to play the 1 copy, and that's the deck. The mana base is pretty much just jamming in all of the different dual lands. We're going to run 3 copies of Blazemire Verge, Raucous Theater, which can help us dig for more lands if we need to make sure we're curving out properly. Restless Vents, which gives us a little bit of aggression left on the battlefield if they sweep it. Sulfurous Springs, 4 Fabled Passage, along with 3 swamps and 2 mountains. And that does help us get to the number of mountains or swamps we need for something like a Blazemire Verge. So I think that number is pretty good. And then we're running just 1 Murex, so we have just a little bit of extra value in the late game if we start running out of gas. 1 Plaza of Heroes, because there are a decent amount of legendary creatures in this deck, and 1 Plaza can go a long way towards helping us keep them on the battlefield. And then we are just going to run 1 copy of Mudflat Village. There are certain instances where if we have this in the mid to late game, we can use it to bring back an Aclazotz. We can use it to bring back our 4 Deep-Cavern Bats. We can also use it to bring back... There's one other card. Jasper? Yes, Laughing Jasper Flint. So even though I don't want to run too many of these, because we don't want to be in a position where we can't, like, discard our Harvester or something like that, we do want to run the 1. I think it's a nice little bit of extra value, and there really isn't too much of an opportunity cost to run just 1 of these. So we are running 1, and that's the deck. I'm having a ton of fun with it. It's super powerful, and I love imagining the look on my opponent's face when we just keep playing threat after threat after threat that they absolutely have to deal with, and they just run out of ways to deal with them. It's pretty insane. That being said, I've been rambling long enough, so let's check out the games. I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Wonders of the First. Wonders of the First is a brand new collectible card game similar to games like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, featuring a unique action-based resource economy that helps avoid pitfalls like Mana Flood or Mana Screw, and a battlefield containing multiple realms that unlock over time as you fight for control of the stones. The first 400 card set is called Existence and will launch to retail in the fall, but playtest team starter kits are available to order now. And they haven't forgotten about all you collectors out there. The game contains alternate borderless art variants, as well as highly sought after limited edition numbered prints, culminating in a one-of-one stone foil. And the best part is that the developers have a community-first approach, with 8 print-and-play decks available on their website, as well as a version of the game available on Tabletop Simulator, all for free. For more information, be sure to check out wondersccg.com today. That's wondersccg.com. Alright, this actually looks pretty good. It's a little bit risky, because we do need to draw a third land. But if we do, we have 3 really good 3-drops that we can sort of lean on as we wait for the rest of our lands. And we do have a Harvester of Misery to use as removal on turn 2, so we are going to keep it. Start with the Vents. Just really kind of praying for another land here. Skull Dweller. Well, we do have another land. How important is it that we kill this Skull Dweller? I think it's pretty important. All of his proliferate stuff turns into poison spells if it gets through. So if we can keep that from happening, that's probably important. Granted, he does have some spells that just give us poison counters anyway. Without proliferate, he could just use one of those first, and then use a proliferate spell. But at least we increase our chances. Prologue to Phyresis. There is one such spell. Now we have a poison counter. He draws a card, and it is a race. Another Skull Dweller. Says go. We'll dump another Harvester of Misery. And we will find a swamp. There it is. Breaches helps us play other things by creating treasure tokens. But Unstoppable Slasher can just end the game super quick. So it's kind of hard to know what to play. I think the tiebreaker is the fact that if he has removal, the Slasher will come back. So we'll play the Slasher. Augury, he's going to give us another poison counter and then find a card. That's fine. If this thing hits once, we get him down to 9. If it hits again, we get him down to 3. There's another land. Let's attack first. Anoint with Affliction. Exile target creature. Sure. Well, guess we're playing another one. Although Breaches might have been better at this point, because we can get the treasure token to play a Dragonhawk. Hawk Tua. Vraska's Fall. At least Vraska's Fall gives us the Slasher back. Not that we're actually going to use it. Alright, Breaches is out. Can we get there before he gives us another 5 poison counters? Maybe. We shall see. Rascus Fall. Sack that. We go up to 7. So he's probably got lethal next turn, huh? That is rough. Alright, we will make a treasure. Chances are very, very high that we're dead. But all we can do is try. We did grab a Dracosaur. So we've got lethal next turn. He needs to give us 3 more poison counters right now. So 3 of those 4 cards in his hand are 2-drop spells that give us poison counters. He's got it. If not, I'm pretty sure he's dead. There's one. He can find another one that way. He is running out of blue, though. How many black spells does he have that are 2 mana? That can give us a poison counter? I don't think any. Serum Snare, though. Ooh. So we get him to 5. If we attack with the vents, we get him to 3. That is not enough. This will deal 4 damage to him at the end of our turn. Is that enough? No, we're 1 off. 1 off, guys. That is crazy. That is so crazy. That is so crazy. End the turn. He goes to 1. And he's probably got us. I mean, there's a chance he doesn't. He doesn't? Oh, he ran out of cards. 3 lands, all of them are tapped, and nothing in our hand that costs less than 4. This is the definition of a hand that has to be mulliganed. Alright, 3 lands. We got a 2-drop, we got a 3-drop. We absolutely keep all of this. We'll put back the Dracosaur. That's fine. Give ourselves time to draw into it. We're going to start with the Raucous Theater. Surveil into... Do we want Breaches? Could be a good turn 4 play. I think we're going to dump it, though. A 4-drop or a 5th land would be preferable. Well, there's the 5th land. So we'll Deep-Cavern Bat. We might lose it. In fact, we probably will. In fact, I probably should have just held up Harvester. But I mean, worst case scenario, we make him waste a piece of his removal, right? And we get a look at his hand. He's going to drop Liliana next turn. We don't have a way to kill Liliana, unfortunately. This is going to be rough. This is going to be rough. Makes us discard. We'll dump the mountain.
We all have things we'd rather forget.
Make sure we get the Murex down. Play the Unstoppable Slasher. He's going to sacrifice the Nowhere to Run to exile it to Final Vengeance, probably. Alright, we're going to dump the Harvester. He could down tick the Liliana, but the problem is the Slasher comes back with stun counters if he does that. Alright. Now we're in a bit of a pickle because he gets to uptick the Liliana, get rid of our swamp, and then we don't have a 4th land to play Sheoldred, and we are completely out of gas. Which is hugely problematic, but he's also out of gas. We've got a Slasher down. If he makes us sacrifice the Slasher, it comes back, and we don't have to discard the Sheoldred.
Sacrifices must be made.
Alright. I think we have a chance to catch up here. That's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Pass the turn. I need some nectar. He'll grab the Sheoldred here, because we're the closest to being able to play that. And then we will be very sad, because if we top deck our 4th land, we won't be able to do anything again. Oh, he's getting so lucky. Oh, he makes me discard? He could have gotten rid of the Slasher for forever at that point. That's crazy. Okay, we'll pass the turn. Now if he tries to make us sack the Slasher, we can make a Mirrex token. Sack the Might.
Haven't you ever heard of personal space?
Alright, this looks good. This looks good. We're hanging in there. He's up to 21. I mean, we're just gonna kill Liliana here. And that means we can safely play Sheoldred without worrying about not having the Might token to sacrifice to the Liliana. Which means he's completely in top deck mode. Put him at 19. He final vengeances the Slasher. It's okay though. We're still in pretty good shape, honestly. Alright, we swing before we show him what our card is. Then we'll play the theater and set up our next turn by scrying, well, surveilling. No, we don't want the man land. Too slow. Especially because we've already got Mirrex. And if we're going to spend mana every turn, we can just already make Might tokens. And if we're not spending mana each turn, if we want to play things out, then we don't really want a tapped land that slows us down. Alright, he's going to gain back some life. Makes sense. Alright. Might token. Another land. Okay. I mean, we play it. Swing for 5. End the turn. We're going to make another Might token. We are racing decently well. If he has removal for the Sheoldred, if he top decks it, that's where we're in real trouble. Because then we can't raise his life gain. But as long as that doesn't happen, we have a real chance here. We go down to 12. He's at 13. We'll make another Might. Another land? Wow. Okay. Well, we'll play it because we'll get to at least thin out the deck. And make it that much more unlikely that we draw a land next turn. Okay, so he goes down to 5. So even if he does gain some life here, we have lethal right now. 2 Deep-Cavern Bats. So he's basically putting out chump blockers for Sheoldred, it looks like. And he scoops! He's seen enough. He couldn't deal with the Sheoldred. Alright, we have 3 lands and plenty of things to curve out with, so we'll keep this one. Playing Boros. Ooh, Boros enchantments. That's going to be problematic. We will start with the Restless Vents, get the tap land out of the way. Although, if he has that Hex-proof aura and can protect the Scavenger, it's going to be problematic. See if we can get that out of his hand with Deep-Cavern Bat. Maybe. Possibly. Alright, let's get a look. Got another Optimistic Scavenger and a Feather of Flight. Well, I guess we'll hit the Feather of Flight, right? Make sure he can't get his triggers. Draw extra cards. He's kind of reliant on his top deck at this point. Plays Scavenger. What is the last card? That's the question. No blocks. Another land. Well, we're gonna have to play the Mirrex because we definitely want to get down to Slasher. And we will swing with the bat. Back up to 18. He now has 2 cards that are unknown to us. We'll do this. Plays the Shard Mage's Rescue. I'm not sure why he puts it on that Scavenger though. That seems like a mistake. He's gonna lose it to the Death Touch. Yeah, that was definitely a mistake on his part. Alright, we'll go second Restless Vents. Play another Unstoppable Slasher. He's down to just 1 card, and his board doesn't look too good, so I think we got him at this point. I think we ate through too much of his resources. Alright, swing for 1. Go back up to 15. Seems pretty good. Yeah, he's flooding just about as much as we're flooding. The difference is our cards are a lot more valuable than his. Once again, we'll block a Scavenger here. Alright, doesn't get lost. Hits us for 3. So we definitely want Rakdos next turn. We're going to Fabled Passage this turn to thin out the land since we already have another land in our hand. We will play Gix. Attack with the bat. Draw a card. And let's see. I guess... I mean, we could pop the map tokens. I don't think we're going to need the Case of the Stashed Skeleton. I think if anything, we need to make sure that we survive. Not that he has much of a chance of killing us next turn anyway. But, let's just buff up the Gix as best we can. Keep Cruelclaw on top. I don't think we're going to need it. We just play Rakdos next turn and then probably win. We don't have any pirates out, right? Yeah. It's over, buddy. It's over. Alright, we only have 2 lands, but we do have a Harvester of Misery, 2 cases. I think we try and keep it. Hopefully we top deck, what, 2 lands and a 3-drop in the first 3 cards. That would be perfect. exile a card. Well, we're gonna have to exile the expensive thing, right? Although I could see an argument being made for Case of the Stash Skeleton. But we don't know for sure if we're gonna get more lands, so I'd rather make sure we have another play on turn 3. Alright, Jika. Deep-Cavern Bat. Probably hits the Harvester. Kind of has to, right? So we're just going full bore with Case of the Stash Skeleton, I guess. We shall see. Well, why did you not hit the Harvester of Misery? That is wild. Yes, we will keep the land. Alright, we will attack. End the turn, we're going to hold up Harvester. We absolutely kill the Deep-Cavern Bat this turn with it. Alright, we'll dump Aclazotz. Hopeless Nightmare. Kill the Deep-Cavern Bat. Get back the Case. Discard the Case to the Hopeless Nightmare. Play the 4th land drop. Play the Enduring Courage. And now all of his discard spells do not matter, and we have to race him. Because he's probably going to level up the Bandit's Talent and try to kill us that way. Alright, Enduring Courage dies, but it comes back. And now everything we play is going to have haste and +2 power. And we top deck a land. Wonderful. We're going to keep it in our hand. There's no reason to play it unless we need it. Oh, Thoughtstalker Warlock. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Alright, we'll attack again. Let's just play it, I guess. Giving him fuel for his other discard spells is probably a bad idea. I think we just have to resign to the fact that we're taking 2 every turn from Bandit's Talent for the rest of the game. And just try to win off the back of the haste. Hey, there we go. I will take it. Oh man. Put him to 3. That's pretty strong, especially with the haste coming from Enduring Courage. It's gonna be gnarly. Can he kill us this turn? No, but he can kill the Dracosaur, which almost doesn't matter. We top deck any creature at all, and we probably win. It's very close though. We're at 6. We're gonna go down to 4 on our turn, I believe. At the very least. He could have other things in his hand. Ooh, Nightmare. We're going to go down to 2. So it's literally... Oh, we just didn't... Tap land. Tap land. Good game. We get him to 1. To 1, and he kills us. Crazy. Crazy. He's so lucky that top deck was not a creature. He would have been dead. But he got us. He slipped it through. I'll give it to him. Alright, this looks pretty good. We have plenty of land. We don't have a turn 2 play, but we do have options for turn 3. Try and keep it. We will start with a Theater. Try to surveil into a 2-drop if we can. Although at this point it probably makes sense to play the other tap land anyway. And then play a 3-drop on 3. So Slasher is down. And then next turn we'll just Slasher again. Double Slasher seems good. Surveil. Get rid of lands, please. Thank you. Man, so many lands. Let's attack. Opponent must have removal, right? Okay, Lightning Helix. That's fine. Comes back with counters. Play another one. Next turn we Fabled Passage and play the Dracosaur. And he has a bunch of must-answer threats at that point. We'll grab a mountain since we already have a swamp. And we will attack. We'd much rather bait out removal with the Slasher, since it can come back. And then hopefully stick the Dracosaur. Because if the Dracosaur survives a whole turn cycle, the value we get off the Dracosaur is insane. So we'll see what happens here. We shall see what happens. Caretaker's Talent. I think that's a little too slow. Damn, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're 1 mana short of playing the Harvester. I think we just have to let the Harvester go away. Hit something with the Deep-Cavern Bat. Torch the tower, okay. That's fine. 2 Sunfalls, a Caretaker's Talent, and a Season of the Burrow. He really needs another land, huh? He really needs another land. I think we want to draw. Even though we are kind of setting ourselves up to get a little bit blown out. Man, just land, land, land. So many lands. Alright, well, in the turn, if he top decks the land, he gets the Sunfall. But we do have a Carnosaur. And we also have a Restless Vents. Okay, he didn't get the land. So we got him. Alright, this hand is pretty weird, but we do have 3 lands. And we have a Harvester on 2 to deal with their board states. So I think we're going to give it a try. We are going to have to put a little bit of effort into dragging out the game to turn 5. Well, there's our 4th land, so almost assured that we can get to Dracosaur on 5. We have to dump the land. We have to. We have to get to something we can play on turn 3 or 4. Or both. Glimmer. Harvester can't kill the Glimmer. That is unfortunate. We're just going to play the Swamp and pass. And hopefully be able to kill something with the Harvester that's not the Glimmer this turn. But we'll see. Fear of Isolation returns a land. Interesting. Very interesting. So we'll play the Slasher. And then we can safely play a tapped land next turn, I'm pretty sure. Highly unlikely that we top deck a 4-drop. So we probably play the tapped land and hopefully whatever we draw next turn. And then we can Fabled Passage on 5 and actually play out a Dracosaur or maybe even a Harvester of Misery, depending on what the board state looks like. Fear of Isolation, sure. Again. Alright, so we have a Carnosaur, which is probably what we want to do. Alright, so we're gonna discard the Carnosaur to kill the Glimmer. And make it harder for him to unlock Elegant Rotunda. Just slow him down, just so we can get to the Dracosaurs. Once we start landing those Dracosaurs, if we could just get one to stick that he can't deal with, it's probably game over. Fear of Isolation can't attack into it, and we just keep getting repeat value. Alright, he kills the Slasher. But the Slasher comes back. And my dog is snoring again. Bandy boy. No snoring, okay? I am recording. Very important game. Very, very important. I guess we'll grab a Swamp. And we'll try to just land the Dracosaur. I'm going to assume he has some sort of removal for it. But he might be out of removal by the time we play the second one. We shall see. Unlocks the Rotunda. Which doesn't matter too much because we have First Strike. I guess it matters if we are... Well, no. Doesn't even matter if we're attacking, does it? Could play the Harvester. But we end up killing our own dude. And it doesn't kill the Fear of Isolation. So... I actually think we're better just playing a Carnosaur. Let's do that. A Harvester of Misery. We'll put it in hand. And we'll attack. Because First Strike is bananas. And he scoops. That's how you do it. Alright, I think under normal circumstances we should probably mulligan this because we have nothing to play before turn 4. But I'm gonna believe in the heart of the cards. I'm gonna believe in the heart of the cards. They're gonna pass us something. We do have the ability to surveil with the theaters, so I think we'll be okay. Let's dump the Dracosaur. Dump anything that isn't a 2 or a 3 drop. Alright. Mountain Case. Let's get on board here. This is great because the skeleton can just swing in for 2 every single turn and start whittling down their health until they deal with it. And then if they deal with it, we just get a tutor. Which also seems pretty good. Deep-Cavern Bat. Would you like to kill it with your removal, sir? Oh, you're gonna kill that. That is interesting. Enduring Innocence. Parting Gust. Man. Guess we take the Parting Gust, huh? And we'll play another Raucous Theater. Aclazotz. I think we gotta dump the Aclazotz. We need to get to a 3-drop, if we can. Or even a 2-drop, and cracking a map token would be okay. Or an untapped land. That allows us to play Enduring Courage, which I kind of love. Alright, he plays Archangel Elspeth. Makes a 1/1. Draws a card. All of that is fine. All of that is glorious. Now, do we play the Slasher? Or do we just play Sheoldred? Let's play Sheoldred. Let's do that. Let's attack it a little bit with the other guys. I mean, that looks great to me. Absolutely great to me. And as he draws cards, he's going to lose life because of Sheoldred. We've got Enduring Courage still, which means Dracosaur can swing in immediately. Oh, he Sunfalls it. Didn't see that coming. Didn't think he'd get to 5. Well, we're going to have to do what we're going to have to do. Do we bait out the other Sunfall? Decline. We'll keep everything for now. End the turn. We want to make him turn this into a 4/4 before he plays his Sunfall, if we can. So, getting rid of the Planeswalker and giving him a board state where he's kind of incentivized to try and swing at me, I think makes sense. He's probably not going to do it, but we've got to at least try, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we play the Slasher and the Inti, maybe? No, we only want to play. We only want to play one thing because we want to hit the Sunfall, which means we also want to attack with the Restless Vents, right? So, we'll do this, we'll do this. Swing for 3, trigger Inti, discard Slasher. Get a land. We're gonna decline. We will play the Fabled Passage though. We'll crack it. Find a land. Probably the swamp here. And then we will use the map token on the Restless Vents again. Trumpeting Carnosaur. That seems perfect. Let's grab that. So now he wants to deal with the Inti probably. He's drawing a lot of cards, though. A lot of cards. Hey, Bandit, could you stop snoring, please? The microphone is picking it up. My dog. Just always a little snory snorer. Always. Probably got to get Lost held up for the Restless Vents. if I had to guess. So we'll just do this. See what we can hit. Slasher. I mean, he definitely Sunfalls now, right? I think we have to decline. Oh, okay, he didn't have the removal. That's fine. I mean, if we give him a board state where he thinks he's better off than us, he's not going to Sunfall. And I kind of feel like that might work in our favor a little bit. Is he doing that now because he won't have any tokens to copy after the Sunfall? No, he's not even Sunfalling. He's out of mana. Oh, okay. Okay. Kind of ballsy, though. Kind of ballsy. Goose egg. Just gonna end the turn. Not even gonna attack. Not even going to attack. Well, we'll attack with everything. Okay. Guess that's a thing you can do. Do we Carnosaur this guy? Nah, I don't think so. Just get rid of everything. Play another Carnosaur so that we can get on board. We still kind of want to force him to Sunfall. And I think this will do it. I think he'll finally pop the Sunfall here. Especially with the Slasher being able to come back at some point, and the Jasper being able to get triggers. Ah, boy. Dollmaker Shop. Sure. Ghostly Dancers. Unlocks the Dollmaker Shop? That's pretty nuts. Not gonna lie. He just has an insane amount of land. So it's... he can just kind of do an entire game's worth of shit in one turn, every turn. And it's just too much. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.